Okay, good morning, Anne,
Hello, Anne. It's lovely to talk to you again.
and nice to talk to you too. So Anne, I asked whether we could do this interview because I met you at networking. I'll let you introduce yourself to the viewers. Tell us a bit more what you do.
Okay. Well, as Anne said, my name's Anne Hawkins, and I'm a business mentor. So what that means is that I've been running my own business for 25 years, and lots of people are asking me advice about how to get more profit from their businesses. So eventually, I started charging for that service because it was taking up a lot of my time. And now it's what I do pretty much all of the time. So I work with owners of very small businesses, mostly to help them get more profit from their business, and mostly with very practical advice on how the business can be run.
And you're also a master networker. This is where we met in a networking group. And I found that every time we talked, you gave some very useful tips, and that's why I thought I would interview you this morning for my community of users.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you very much for the compliment.
You're welcome. It's true. Um, and one thing I've noticed, so you're a networking expert, and a lot of the small business owners, this is the way they start their business. They think, okay, I'll do loads of networking. And I've noticed that you are spending much more and more time advocating doing online business. I have you got any? I mean, as a person, as a people, is it easy to do the same online as you would do in reality? I mean, live, basically.
It depends a lot on your personality, I guess. Some people find it much easier to network online because it's about writing rather than speaking. And a lot of people find it much easier to talk to people face to face, and they don't like putting their thoughts down in writing. So it really depends on your type of personality and how easy you find all this. But I think it's not just about going with what's easy. It's figuring out what's going to work best for your business. There's a new survey just come out that says that something like 4 out of 5 people would rather deal with a business that has a website that they like rather than a local business that doesn't have a website. So I think that online presence is just so important, and getting it right is really, really important, whether you're networking or not. So that has to be the foundation of any good business now.
Okay, well, that's obviously for us. It's part of why what most of my customers ask, because they can do online booking, and adding an online booking button to your website is very easy. Now, it doesn't mean people are going to press it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We have a very, very short space of time in which to attract people once they land on our website and to make them want to stay there, what we do, and then, as you say, to take it a step further and actually engage with us, in some kind of an appointment. So I guess one of the main things is to have a website that is very attractive and grabs people's attention as soon as they land on it. And the most looked at page on any website is the About Me page. So what people are looking for there is this age-old idea of people buy from people. So even when you're online and you're looking, you're running a business that may be totally online, you have to still be a real person and engage with the people who are coming to buy from you. And there's a big change these days about buyer behaviour. The buyer has changed enormously because they have all the power at their fingertips to go from one website to another, to another, to another, to another in a very short space of time, and then choose the one that appeals to them most. And what they're doing is they're choosing from the people that they see. So I think for one of the biggest tips that I could give to your customers is that they have a very lovely and engaging picture of themselves on their website in a very prominent place. And it should be a picture of their face, smiling, and it should be a zygomatic smile, which means that it lifts your cheekbones and crinkles your eyes. And that's a real genuine smile, and you can tell when it's genuine rather than the forced smile that a lot of people put on when they're having their photo taken. And the other important thing is about the eyes. Everybody says you can see someone's soul in their eyes, and if you look at any page of print, what draws you immediately is a picture of someone's face, and more importantly, their eyes. And that's what creates trust. So if you can get that kind of a picture, that is the main thing that will draw people in and make them want to explore further.
So actually, for people who are people, that must be easier to understand than for people who are technology experts. So that would be really useful to our community, where a lot of them, they will tell me, well, I'm a massage therapist. I do that because I like to be with people. So what I hear from you is that actually doing business online they can do that in a way that suits their personality as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you only have to think about it for a second. You wouldn't book an online appointment with a massage therapist unless you could see who's going to be doing that massage when you turn up. You're a faceless person. You want to be able to engage with that and really start the trust process as soon as possible.
Oh, and that trust process, do you think I guess it plays a big part, as you said in the beginning, about getting people to press that book button. How do you think they can do that using social media and using online marketing?
One of the very best referral processes or recommendation processes is word of mouth marketing. There is no better substitute than that. And so online that translates to testimonials. So whenever you have a satisfied customer, getting them to express that in a way that you can put on your website is really important. And I know some people shy away from that. They think they don't want to pester their customers. But actually what happens is that if you have done a really good job for someone, they're only too delighted to tell the world about it or to spread the word amongst their own friends. So if you ask them if they would do a testimonial, they will almost always say yes. What gets in the way then is that they don't quite know where to start or how to write it or just get around to it sometimes. So a way around that is to write some testimonials that you would like to have and to send them to your customers with a very simple note that says, these are some of the testimonials that people have written about me. Would you like to copy one of these? You've already said that you'd be happy to give me a testimonial. So would you like these? Or would you like me to just put your name on one of these? And almost always people say, yes, that's absolutely fine. You can stick my name on this. I'm happy with that. And it saves them the trouble of having to write it.
That's good. And as you said, a lot of people, they would feel a bit embarrassed about asking a testimonial. It's interesting. Can you get back to what you were saying about people are more than happy to write a testimonial? Why do you think this is?
I think people are happy to give a testimonial. It's sometimes harder for them to write it because they're never quite sure what to say when they're committed to writing. But the idea of being happy to give a testimonial, it comes from this feeling of reciprocity, which is a very powerful thing. And it's when someone does something nice for us, we don't want to be beholden to them. This is human nature. What we want to do is be on an equal footing. So when someone does something nice, we want to do something nice back for them. And that's where the testimonial comes in. You're giving people the opportunity to express their appreciation and their gratitude. And so that then puts them back on an equal footing with you. So it's something that people are really happy to do.
I completely relate to this. I'm forever asking favors of mums to help with my children, and I feel terrible if I can't reciprocate in some in some way or form. You know, I can never pick up their children from school, but I need to find some other way that can help.
Yeah, yeah. And that then really builds on the trust that you're making in that relationship with the person. It deepens the relationship, and of course, what we all want from our customers is that good relationship, so that they keep coming back to us.
And at the beginning, we were talking about people who are people, and networking. And networking is really, I mean, in Cambridgeshire, you're one of the queens of networking, I would say. So how do you think people who enjoy networking, how do you think they can play to their strength, if you want, and use that in their online marketing?
Right, there's two things going on there. First of all, this idea of me being the queen of networking, I actually don't do very much networking at all. I don't spend very much time actually out there physically networking. But what I do is make sure that when I am there, I've made the best use of the time beforehand. So I prepare by making sure I know who else is going to be at that networking meeting. So if you're involved in any kind of say a meetup group, or you know who's running the networking organisation, and you can ask for an attendance list before you go. Do a bit of research, and then when you turn up, you've got such an advantage, because you can say to people, "Oh, I've just been having a look at your website. I think it's great," or "I've been so looking forward to meeting you. You know, I was just looking at your your LinkedIn profile," or whatever it is. But you've got, a nice introduction, rather than just wandering up to someone who's a total stranger and saying, "What do you do?" which is a real killer. So make the most of that time beforehand, and also you do it exactly the same afterwards. So if you get the opportunity and you can link with people after an event, just to say, "It was so nice not to sell anything, please not to sell anything," and not to put people on an email list or a newsletter list without their permission. But just to say, "It was really so nice to meet you. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and it would be great to have a chat next time we meet up." And perhaps pick out something from the conversation you had with them that inspired you, or it's this whole business of making people feel special, so that when you are there in person, you've got a presence that people are happy to come and engage with you. So I think that's the key to it all, really. Not to spend a huge amount of time just going from group to group, but to make sure that the networking that you do is as effective as possible.
And you said that was the first point. And the second one?
The second one is that very often, if I do turn up to a networking event and I don't know who's going to be there, very often people will recognise me because I have a good online presence. So even if they haven't deliberately looked me up because they know I was going to be there that day, more often than not, they've come across me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Google+, on a meetup group, or they've been signed up to my blog and that kind of thing. So a lot of people know who I am because of my online presence, and I think the more that you can create that and make it so true to yourself that when they meet you in person, they actually recognise you, and it's not a big disappointment, then that's a real advantage too.
Thank you. That's really useful. And there's one thing. There's a big thing, I think, that there's two questions that people ask me all the time, and I wondered whether I could run them past you. First one is, I don't mind going networking. I love it. I like to meet people. Blah blah blah. But I really don't like to be in front of the computer. That's not who I am. And so I understand I need to build my online presence, but it doesn't feel like them. And I don't know whether there's any advice you can give that I could pass on.
Let me deal with the technology thing first. I have a 95-year-old mother-in-law who is she lives on her own. She's all her wits about her, and she's very fit and healthy. And she has an iPad, and she regularly sends emails to her grandchildren all over the world, and photographs and all kinds of things. And she has just bought a microwave in the last month and learned how to use that, pretty much taught herself how to do things. And it's all about not being afraid. What's the worst that can happen? And if a 95-year-old could cope with it, and I'm no spring chicken, but I've been blogging for over 10 years. So there is no excuse. The world is technology now, and it's part of business. If you're going to be in business, you have to master the technology. There's no excuse, and people won't forgive you for not being able to do it. So you have to get over those fears. And again, you don't need any special skills. You need to be a bit smart, obviously, but then you need to be smart to run a business. So if you can do that, you can master the technology. You can find people who will help you to start with. There are so many different online forums and things like that. You just ask a question, and people will help you answer it. So please don't try and make excuses. Say, I don't understand it, because it is just an excuse, and the world will not forgive you. So the second thing is, it's about. Let me think. It's really about taking it step by step and understanding that what you're doing online is almost the same as meeting someone face to face. You are still speaking to people. You're still speaking to individuals, and you have to speak as you. So getting someone else in to do things for you very rarely works. There are a few people around who can take on a social media activity for someone else and make it work, but they are few and far between, and because of that, expensive. So I would always recommend that you do your online networking yourself, because nobody really knows how you're going to react to something, whether you find a joke funny or offensive or this kind of thing. So you have to be you. And the other thing about the expense is that in any business, especially a small business, the owner has to know what their time is worth. You have to put a value on that. So if you can earn a certain amount of money by being face-to-face with your clients, and that's your most profitable activity, you take that figure, whatever it is, whether it's £40 an hour or £1,000 an hour, and you say, can I afford to spend this time doing my online marketing and networking? Is the result it? And what I would say is, whatever you're earning per hour, if you get one client from an hour's worth of online marketing, and that client keeps coming back to you week after week after week, then it's definitely worth it. You have to think of the lifetime value of a client.
Thank you. I think that's the thing about fear. It's we can prove that I've mastered my fear of Google Hangouts, because we had to do 3 tries before this worked. And I really thank you for being patient with me over this time, because it was, I knew it could do so much for my business, and I really want to, I think it's a fantastic tool that I could use for to help my community. And so I really thank you for helping me there, and also for being patient with me. So yes, I think, and for me it's worse, because I sell software. So everybody says, oh, you sell software, you must know everything about technology. No. You are proof of that.
I have to say that you're the second person from a technology company that I have tried to do a hangout with who hasn't been able to make it work in the first instance. And I think there's obviously some kind of thing going on there where people they're really techie people, think they know how things should work, but Google Hangout doesn't work like that. A lot of social networks are made for idiots to use. All know idiots on Facebook who can barely string 2 words together, but they can use that technology because that's how it's designed. And I think that's the difference. Sometimes we try to be too clever with it, and when we should just sort of think, well, if my 8-year-old can use it, then I should be able to master it.
Yes, I think we did try to be a bit too clever, and that's why it didn't work. I agree. Did I have any other questions?
have a look at the list.
Because I did get some from customers before we started this, so I just want to make sure that I've run through everything. Oh, there was one more. There's a lot of people who say, well, I am a massage therapist, therefore I can only get business from people who can come to see me. So how much time should I spend online? Or I'm a piano teacher, or I'm a piano tuner, or I install television aerials. I'm not going to drive to Edinburgh to install one. It's going to be around Cambridge.
Okay. What those people need to be thinking about is when someone is searching for a piano teacher in Cambridge or a massage therapist in Cambridge or anything like that, what words are they going to put in Google to look for where they're going to find somebody locally? And so they need to, you mentioned SEO before, and this is the basis of it all, really. So you need to think about the words that people will use to search for you. And then you need to make sure that somewhere in your website they appear in enough variety and in enough different ways that Google will recognize them and index them and make sure that you appear when the search is taking place. Now, one of the best ways of doing that is to have a Google Plus account. If you set up your own personal account and a business page for your business on Google Plus, then when people do local searches, you will get pride of place. You'll appear on that search, on the page. You can sometimes see a little box on the right-hand side with someone's face in, as a business and their address and their website and all that kind of stuff. That's all a result of being registered with Google Places. So I heartily recommend that. But then the other thing is that if you also have a Twitter account and a Facebook account and whatever else, what happens is that people will click those little buttons. So they'll retweet your stuff, they will give you a Facebook thumbs up, they'll give you a Google +1 sign, and again, all of that is called social proof. And Google loves it. They like it much more than the guy sitting in an office inventing backlinks and this and that and all the SEO stuff that people do. Google's moving further and further away from that all the time and looking for real social proof of individuals saying, I really like what's happening here. And that then translates again into when we ask our friends and family, who do you know who's a good piano teacher in Cambridge? You can ask those people, and the ones that you trust the most, they may be online, it may be an online community that you ask, but the ones that you trust the most are the ones that you also know in real life. But of course, if you ask it online and you get a reply, how many other people are going to see that? It's there, for the world to see that you've been recommended. So the benefits of doing this are so enormous, and they're multiplying all the time, simply because there are no barriers. I mean, it's all very, you're not going to go to Edinburgh, but someone in Edinburgh may very well have a cousin in Cambridge who's looking for a piano teacher, and they're never going to know about it any other way except by being online.
It's probably especially true in Cambridge, where there's such a variety of people moving all the time in and out of the city.
Yeah. Yes, I was talking to somebody yesterday on Twitter who's just moved here from Cornwall. And we met on Twitter before he came to Cambridge. But when I turned up at the Cambridge Business Lounge, there he was. It's great. It's so much fun when you can do that as well, because you are meeting interesting people.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And yes, yeah. So I completely agree, and I think as well, because they are people, the technology is really not, as you said, not to be feared, and it should really be a representation of who they are. Nobody is asking them to play a part. It's better if they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Could I mention one other thing about listening? The biggest sales skill, and I don't need to tell you this, I'm sure, but one of the biggest attributes a good salesperson has is listening. It's not talk, not fast talking and all that other stuff that's associated with it. It's really listening. And this is one of the things we can do online as well. You can set up some very simple Google alerts, or set up a search in Twitter and that kind of thing, so that if somebody mentions massage or piano or whatever, you can find it. You know, you can get an alert that says somebody's actually talking online about pianos in Cambridge. And you can refine the searches, because you don't want to be, you don't want all the alerts that say about people looking to buy a piano in Cambridge, perhaps. But you can refine this to the point where you know they're talking about the service that you offer. And because of social media, you can connect with them very softly. You don't just jump in and say, hey, I can sell you this. It's a bit like leaning over somebody on a bus when you're eavesdropping on a conversation. But you can engage with them very softly and get to know them and build a relationship on social media, so that by the time they're ready to buy, they will already know you. And this is now being called social selling, and it's taking the social marketing just one step further. So, because all the marketing in the world is no good unless we actually know how to sell at the end of it. So it's building up those leads and then having the relationship, so that you know enough about that person that you can confidently say, time you're looking for a massage, why don't you give me a go?
Yeah, and also I guess online you can, if you have a blog, or if you have any advice or tips you give out for free on your website, you could then advise the person to go and read whatever you've written on this topic, which will then make sure they've actually landed on your webpage.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they're a tiny bit closer to your booking button.
Absolutely, yes. And it's very easy to say to someone on social media, if you're interested in this topic, would you like to sign up to my newsletter? Would you like to sign up to my blog? And then you can get regular updates on this. It's a really nice, soft way of giving people information, being useful to them, without actually selling.
That's very good. And I think, a lot of the small businesses, selling is one thing. It's another one of their big scares. They don't want to be seen as selling.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting what you say about online marketing or online selling being a softer way to do it. I think also from what I hear, it would fit their personality very well, because if you're a massage therapist, if you're an osteopath, if you're a chiropractor, the first thing you do when people come to you is diagnose them. What is their problem? And I guess it's the same for you as a business coach. You don't start by telling them this is what you need to do.
I sometimes do. Sometimes it's hard to resist. But no, you're right. You're right. It is this. When we go to networking groups, the first thing people say to us is, "Oh, you mustn't sell. You're there to make relationships, so you mustn't sell while you're networking." And translated to, you mustn't sell at all, or you don't want to be seen as pushy. And this is a very, very British thing about not being seen as pushy. But seriously, if you're spending money on marketing, it's to generate leads. And then what you do with those leads is you build up the relationship to the point where you actually sell somebody something. Nothing happens in business until a sale is made. So we have to get over this and say, at some point, you do need to sell, and get over it. But you can make it as soft as you like. You can make it almost so that it doesn't feel like selling at all, because you've already got the relationship. And it's so much easier now than have cold calls, or get somebody to go and knock on doors for you and that kind of thing, or leafleting, or stuff where you're just spreading stuff out and you don't know who's going to get it. This is all very targeted and very specific, and usually to the point where someone's grateful that you've mentioned it, because you already know that that's what they need, that's what they're looking for.
Thank you. I think this will be really useful to my community. I get loads of questions, and I think to me what was really useful is because loads of them are businesses who are starting, who are trying to grow, who are trying to fill their diary. I'm really thankful that you gave us some of your time, as you know, you're a recognized business growth accelerator, so people can come and see you. Do they? So is it only in Cambridgeshire that they get a discount for if they're a startup or a small business? How does that work, the business growth?
The Business Growth Accelerator service it's not really for micro businesses. It's for businesses that are well established, so not startups. They're established and they've got to the point where they're ready to grow quickly. So what we're looking for is people who can double their turnover profit and number of people they employ within 3 years. So it's a very specific kind of service. But there are all sorts of other services around in Cambridge. You know, there are services for startups and help for startups and startup loans and all kinds of things like that. So if anybody's interested in any of those things, probably the best way is if they just email me, you know, anna@hawkins.com, and that'll do. You know, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And unlike you, I don't have an E on my name.
Yes, that's the only difference in our spelling.
Yes.
Is there anything else you think you want to add at the end for that you think could be useful for small businesses? Any questions that I didn't get asked, so I didn't pass on, but you think any wisdom you might want to impart on us?
Yes, there is, and it's not to do with marketing. This is about building a good business foundation, and it's the place I always start with my clients, and that is you have to have a cash flow system. You know, however small you are, invoicing 5 clients a month or 500 clients a month, the very first thing you need to do is start a cash flow. You need to know what's coming in, what's going out, and you need to check that every day. In the first year of your business, you need to check it every day. And there's no better motivator. If you know what money's coming in or what money's due in and it's not arriving, then you get on the phone to whoever owes you the money and you make sure that they pay it. If there's money due to go out and there isn't enough in the account to cover it, then you get on the phone and you make some appointments. So that's the biggest motivator ever. And it's the one thing that successful business people always tell me help them to grow a good business. You know, it's that real foundation. All businesses are built on financial information. And if you're afraid of financial information, go and get yourself a good bookkeeper. A bookkeeper doesn't cost very much money, but the value they add to a business is huge. And you really need to know, you know, if you're making money, how you're making money, where the money's coming from, and how to make more of it. You know, that's it. That's what business is all about.
That's interesting, because yesterday I was interviewing a man who built a music school, and he achieved his 5-year business goal in 9 months. But what he said was very simple. He started by getting the 10 to 8 diary just to get an overview of how many clients he had. And then he knew how much, because each of them is reminded, they tend to turn up much more than if they don't get reminded. Mm-hmm. And he also could see exactly how much money was coming each week, because he knows how much any of these appointments is worth. Mm-hmm. And so he knew how much time he needed to spend networking, for example, and how much every of his networking time would bring to his business.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was exactly in line with what you said. Nothing fancy, just very simple.
Yeah, either just on a sheet of paper, if that's how you like to work, or a little spreadsheet if you're happy using Excel. Very, very simple, but something that you're happy to keep using all the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anne. And as it's Friday, happy Friday, and have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. The same to you, Anne. It's been lovely talking to you, and I'm glad we made it in the end.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.